So Remembrance Day is coming, and we're both wearing our poppies. And Dwayne, I see that yours is a little different than mine. So tell me about the little yellow ribbon.
Well, the yellow ribbon is just a symbol of everybody coming home safe. So wherever our troops are deployed, um, the missions they are on are dangerous, but we certainly want them all to come home alive. And this is just my way of thinking of them and remembering them on Remembrance Day.
That's amazing. Beautiful. I know that you've met my friend Frank, who is a fan of yours. He read Speargrass and loved it. He does quite a yard memorial with hundreds of crosses every year on his lawn. Most of them passed away in another country. So he's got grandfathers and great grandfathers and ancestry way back on both sides, his side and his wife's side. And so he's done all this research and found that they didn't bring them home. So they've actually buried some of them in Australia, South Africa.
I mean, there's cemeteries from the First World War overseas, and certainly big cemeteries in France, as an example, from the Second World War. So it's a wartime decision that is just impossible to do with the number of casualties when there's 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 men dying a day.
Yeah.
That's an impossible task. But
I know too that there's been a lot in the movies, that I've seen on TV, that no one left behind theory. I know that kind of crosses over into some of what you were doing as a police officer.
I think that's what the cemeteries overseas is they weren't necessarily left behind. They were found, given a respectful burial and a remembrance. And just this past week, somebody in Canada tracked down the DNA of an unknown soldier, and turned out to be a soldier who was from Alberta.
Oh my
So
God.
it still goes on. The battle or the fight to find who these soldiers are, and to give them a proper memorial, or instead of being the unnamed soldier, now their name. So that continues on today. So when I heard that story, I thought that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And with the technologies today, it makes total sense. With DNA, it's a lot of things are a lot easier now. In policing, it's easier now with DNA evidence. Toronto just cleared a case that was over 30 years old because of DNA. So
I love this, and I know that I always make a point of acknowledging Remembrance Day. I appreciate my grandfather having been in World War II. You have that much respect, like so much respect for veterans and service of every kind, and remembering is huge for you. And yet too, we've got all of this marketing that puts us in a situation where we're doing book sales for Christmas and that fun stuff. So how do you balance that?
Well, I guess I just take every opportunity I can to remember. I do genealogy, and I'm not exactly sure, third cousin 4 times removed or something like that, way back, who was in the First World War. And so throughout the years, I've been doing genealogy. I've been trying to track him down. His name is the same as somebody else's name. And so I got off on a wild goose chase, chasing the wrong Arthur for quite a while, and then eventually realized and had to backtrack, and finally this year found him. And so he died in an attack on the 3rd of November, 1917, and he was in Palestine, and he's buried in Palestine.
Now, is this brand new information for you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had snippets of information from my mom and my dad. On the Clayton side, there's not a lot of information. My grandfather Clayton came over to Canada in 1919 with his mom. They never discussed that with my dad. So we have no clue what happened. My grandfather's father stayed in England, and he died during just at the end of the Second World War. He wasn't fighting, but he died from throat cancer.
Oh my.
So not a lot was known about the Claydon name. So I've spent probably 20 years tracking. And then finally this year, I tracked down Arthur. I have a little memorial plaque that was given to him. My mom has his medals, which will eventually come to me. But yeah, I just had a fascination, and it's kind of like detective work, I guess. I really enjoy it. And not often, but sometimes you do get off on the wrong lead. I was following another Claydon line into New Zealand and thought I had that one nailed a number of generations back and was totally wrong.
Yeah.
So you kind of follow the evidence, you follow the trail, but it's interesting how names are repeatedly used. And so when I would do a search, it wasn't unusual to come up with especially common names. Now, Claydon's not necessarily common in Canada, but in
Right.
England it is. So one of my relatives is William Claydon.
Yeah.
And when you search that, it comes up with a string of them. And so you're looking for something that you can find that connects a baptismal certificate that has the names of somebody you've already searched on it.
Mhm.
And so you have to find that link. And then from there, and okay, now I've got the right person. Now I can go back another generation.